Hi all on PlayChess and also streaming to YouTube. Okay, so I have an over the board game to go over. I did say I had quite a backlog of them. Now this is a very interesting one because at the time of the game I was kind of actually a bit embarrassed by it. Well, for quite some time after the game. I seem to do a good job of trying to lose straight out of the opening, as you'll see. Just to put it in context, this game was in the North Circular League. It was a Muswell Hill home match against Athenaeum Chess Club. The time control is non-increments in this particular league, but there is an extra time added, so it's an hour 15, an hour and a quarter for both players, and then when move 35 is reached, both players get an extra 15 minutes, so that's the time control. And yeah, I was playing against Walton, who's like about 180 ECF, and at the time of this game I was over 200. So let's have a look at it. E4. I'm going to connect to my book and also add a Kibitzer as well. He played E5, and I had the idea of playing the Vienna game that I've vowed quite a few times in the past that I should never play the Vienna game in overboard, because I've had games where opponents have very, very easily equalised and they didn't even know the theory that much. So was this going to be different? So knight c3. If you follow my, if you know about my Chessable, I've got a mega aggressive opening repertoire at Chessable, where I feature actually 3 different systems against e5, but it's meant as a blitz repertoire. The Vienna game one of them, King's game another, and Scotch game another. Out of the 3, I think the Scotch game's got the greatest credibility for the attacking player. If you really want one of 3 different alternatives to Roy Lopez territory. You might think, well, why do I want to avoid Roy Lopez stuff? You just need to know so much. There's so many systems within the Roy Lopez. I like the idea of taking the opponent in your kind of territory where you know what's going on more than the opponent. Yeah, it's not like a theoretical science game. You're actually paired against an opponent. It's a competitive game. So, you know, like the joke about, you know, the running shoes and the wolf chasing the 2 guys. Do you need to be faster than the wolf? No, you need to be just faster than the other guy. Yeah, in chess, you know, you can try and play like theoretically correct openings, but you're really paired against who you're paired against. You just need to have more knowledge than the opponent in a system. So I convinced myself again, you know, the Vienna game, I'll know at least more than the opponent. But I think there's something fundamentally suspect about the Vienna game. And I mean, I lick my lips on knight f6. Knight c6, you know, I'd probably play saner with g3. f4, they can just take the pawn. And I've had, you know, games I've been struggling to draw, they just take the pawn with g5 to follow. I've had terrible games like that. Plaxel really, it's like a good king's gambit. But on knight f6, unfortunately, there is a temptation to play f4 here. Unfortunately, in live book, the most common move is actually knight f3. It's still to maintain some sanity with knight f3. And actually, the second most popular, while we're here, is g3. Just play g3 anyway. I mean, this can be a cozy system. You could just play bishop g2, and it looks like a king's engine in reverse. You've got basic plans. You can do this sort of thing. Yeah, you don't have to play the Vienna game. Not yet. You know, there's alternatives. Also, bishop c4 even. I mean, you don't have to go into the Vienna game. Even this is a bit stodgy, but you know, this is being played quite a lot actually. You know, maybe this is a fun position. Apparently, there's been quite a few games from this. So yeah, just because there's this position, you don't actually have to go into the Vienna game. There's these 3 moves which seem to be more, you know, popular. If we go with knight f3, we could play bishop b5 here. That's the main move. I don't think bishop c4, I don't think that does too much. That looks very stodgy. But bishop b5, yeah, I think, what's the live book on this? Bishop b4. I remember this opening actually from a Nigel Short Simmel, a junior, drew with Nigel Short, playing this kind of stuff with black. Anyway, so fine. I played the Vienna game though, unfortunately. I don't know, I have an addiction to certain bad openings, it seems. Or this thrill factor, I don't know what it is. But anyway, d5. So black's already kind of equalised with d5, I suspect. And okay, I take on e5 with f takes e5. That's the move. Knight takes e4. Now here actually, knight f3 is interesting as an alternative to d3. Let's have a quick look at this. For example, bishop e7, queen e2. And to be honest, this looks like quite a trendy variation somewhere else. If we look at this position, isn't there a line in the Alekhine defense where there's knight c3 and white castles queenside? This looks very similar in its properties. When the main line's like this looks like an interesting, viable position, in fact. So I think there is merit for considering knight f3 here with that idea, you know, to go for the double pawns and castling queenside. It might not be such a bad way of playing it. It is actually more popular than d3. So this is probably not a great line, but anyway, in fact, the technical evaluation gives this away in ChessBase Livebook. It reckons black's already slightly better with knight takes c3. That's the verdict of this line. Black's already slightly better. So why is that the case? Not even with d4, which I consider as an interesting gambit on d4 that you can sort of play to gambit a pawn with a fun position, which goes like something like knight c6, bishop here. What you can do is castle here and gambit this pawn, and the point of this gambit basically you can play queen e1, queen g3, and there's been some very interesting attacking games there. But with the more simple move my opponent played in this position, he doesn't have to go into that gambit, and this is thought to be slightly better. Bishop e7 and c5 are both thought to be slightly better as the chess-based verdict. Let's have a look. Why is black slightly better already? Well, let's see. Knight f3. One thing about this is black has an underminable pawn potentially on e5. Black can later play for f6, and the bishops are really good, the rooks are really good. This is one problem. This pawn's kind of almost, it's scary advanced. It in some way it's an aggressive pawn, but in another way it's already an underminable liability. Let's see. So castles. I think that's the move anyway. Castles. I played d4 now. Bishop e2's been played before as well, and this is thought to be equalish. If f6, it's a castle here, and just consider taking with the knight. Apparently that's better for black actually. Again, great. See, already it seems as though white's got nothing from this opening. In some way there's this optimism here that this looks in some way as though this is an aggressive pawn formation which helps spearhead some sort of attack. And okay, I've actually won some interesting blitz games with it, but let's see, the opponent played bishop f5 here, so he's already wanting to take out my potentially aggressive bishop. Bishop d3 drops this back, and yeah, I play rook b1, which actually is liked by the engine to use the fact that the bishop has left that c8 protection, And I thought if I force some weaknesses, I thought this was to be interesting, some extra weaknesses on the queen side. But now I go crazy here. Probably if white castles, somehow I wasn't too convinced about this position. After all, the pawns have been damaged here. What is the compensation? Isn't black actually just slightly better? This isn't surely a great position. It's not an enviable position to have with the white pieces. There's no edge here gained from the opening. I mean, seriously, you could play in a lot of main lines of, say, the Queen's Gambit or King's Engine, or if I'd played d4, I'd be more confident of getting a small positional edge. But with this opening, black's already, better here. I mean, it's the double pawn set. They're not actually that dynamic. If we look at this, I mean, it looks as though white's under pressure there in the center as well, like a good French defense or something. Black getting rid of any problems. So anyway, I go crazy, and this is really against the art of war principle that you shouldn't go on the attack before you put yourself on defeat, beyond defeat, not on defeat, beyond defeat. I go crazy with h4. Okay, my opponent takes on d3. Queen takes d3, and now he undermines the pawn with f6. I don't like particularly losing the light square bishop. Its position seems to be empty and lonely without that light square bishop. What is there to attack with here? Probably a good idea might be apparently to just take this and play this position with the pawn on h4. And this looks stupid, but what if bishop takes? Well, there's things going on. Bishop a3. If here, there's actually things going on. There's tactics going on in this position. So maybe that is a poisoned pawn. If takes, we have rook takes. Yeah, there's tactics going on. This would be good for white, actually. Yeah, we can win the queen. Ends up being good for white, but I didn't even consider really much this continuation because it looks completely, not the point of me playing h4 to then castle. This really wasn't the point. It's funny how engines have no prejudice, though, of what was the point or not a point of previous moves one might have made. I guess that's an egotistical trait that if one was totally like Spock, one could sort of consider, oh, hang on, in this position, I know my original intention was an h-file hack attack, but I'm going to change that intention totally and try and evaluate all the resources available if I offer that h-pawn as some strange gambit and use instead the f-file. But yeah, this is the way to go apparently. The engine evaluates this position, funny enough, as slightly better for white. If this is bad because of bishop a3, let's take a few more moves. h6. Blimey, there's even bishop takes h6 mentioned. This is crazy stuff. And so there might even be an attack here. I think that speed of the f-file and black's pieces, and in fact, yeah, this is really dangerous. Here there's check. Taking here. What does black do? White's threatening to take rook f1 and rook f7, I expect. So example, or even stronger. No, actually even stronger than this. This is harmless. Apparently even stronger is just knight f7. But yeah, my ego was associated with some h-file attack, not the f-file attack. So that's really interesting. The ego of previous moves and why we played them. Can we really drive ourselves to completely go into a different direction on a move by move basis? Very, very hard. So no, my intention was to open up the rook. Yeah. So I played bishop f4. And yeah, my opponent just gets a great position with f takes, bishop takes, and the position looks entirely, rubbish now after knight d7. I mean, seriously, I'm not actually threatening anything. The idea of using the rook in conjunction with the queen is really a blitz idea, I have to say here. But now that I've stepped into this horrible position, I have to live with it. You know, you have to make your bed in the opening and sleep in it, at least for the duration of the game. If the bishop retreats, there's horrible things here. Knight f6 with knight e4, that would be a big knight on e4. Or there's even knight h5. Where is any attack here? This is just, white is not beyond defeat. White has all the weaknesses, not just on the queen side with limited compensation, but also on the king side. Yeah, this looks just horrible. Example, let's say castle. I think black can just play very simply and laugh here, because this e4 square is good for a knight once this is kicked, perhaps. So like this, but maybe we can just kick this and go knight e4, and then what? It's like not a great position to have with the white pieces, just weaknesses everywhere. So yeah, I didn't want to retreat the bishop, so I played knight g5 to follow up on that original idea that the h-pawn was about the rook. All about the rook. That's what the h-pawn was about. Okay, so he takes, and I've got a threat for the first time in the game, which is parried with g6. It's really embarrassing to have in a team match a wreck of a position out of the opening. I felt slightly humiliated at this point. So yeah, I felt humiliated because there's no real attack. Any attacking attempts can be parried quite easily, but I go for queen h3, clearly as though there's something with e6, right, and h7, but queen e7 addresses both. So I've basically got a wreck of a position. And actually, you know, I can't even castle, and e5 is under fire. It's not that he just defended my dual threat there. He's also threatening knight takes e5. So on a grimness scale, let me do a quick vote here with you guys on chat. How grim is this position? So say 1 is not very grim, but 10 is very grim. What sort of grimness scale would you give this position here? I don't want to bias you, but I give it like 10. It's like one of the worst positions I've had in over the board chess. Well, at least this year. I mean, yeah, I'd put it at 10. What about you guys? Let me sort out this webcam a bit. Got an imperfection here on this webcam. Just noticed. Or not. I think it's terribly grim, and okay, at least I think the webcam imperfection has been fixed. Yeah, I think it's grim. It's totally grim. Other people have nice positions for the opening, and this is a disaster position, right? Grim frostbitten. I've just been provoked. I feel like I've been provoked to do a sparkler-like attack. So on Guy Fawkes Day you get these sparklers and they last for like 1 minute, and then the sparkler's gone out and you've just spent £1 or whatever. I don't know, I haven't bought them for quite a while. There might be more than £1, but they go out after a minute, so you've had your fun for a minute and you're just left with Stonehenge after, in terms of pawn structure. It's terrible. I play king d1 It's totally grim. This is why I'm embarrassed. I was embarrassed for some time after this game. In fact, this is why, you know, with more solid systems like the London system, you can play the first few moves and at least reach a fairly, you know, stable position. What do we mean by stable? You might have heard actually Peter Zvidler use the term stable when he does some comments on games. What do you mean that in chess? Well, this isn't stable. It's falling apart. It's falling apart. I'm actually losing a pawn for nothing, and then I'll be losing another, and then probably more, basically, if the opponent plays accurately. So the idea of having a stable position from the opening is very interesting, actually. That's also, if we go back to that Art of War concept I mentioned quite a bit. I love that Art of War concept, that you put yourself beyond defeat before going on the attack. There's an element of stability there. In Kung Fu fighting, I imagine that's having a balance. In boxing, that's like having a balanced position. You're not off balance before you try throwing a punch. It's this idea of stability, this balance, before you have energy to do anything. Make sure you're not giving too many weaknesses away before throwing a punch. You know, you're not going to fall on the floor even trying to throw a punch. Yeah, it's like stability, balance, an element of solidity before trying to do something active. Here it's just falling apart. Yeah, he wins his first pawn. Well, in slow motion, right? Because the queen's tied down to h7. This is forking to win the first pawn. So yeah, I have to work with this grim position, totally grim position. But I think I do play a good move in the circumstance. In fact, the engine mentions a move in the circumstance. I do want to find out if there's any... The one thing I did have in this game is an element of patience, which was nurtured from my earlier over the board games, which I'm yet to show you. An element of patience to try and search for downsides of the opponent's position. Downsides of the opponent's position are often related to your own whatever trump cards you might have. Now, given that is the case, if you were very patient with this position and you could avoid being too depressed by it, what do you think is a good move here? So white's play, I think I found under the circumstances, what is a good move here to try and potentially get some threats going. So what do you reckon? So white's play here. So, and in fact, it seems even lonelier without the light square bishop, that all the bishops and knights have gone. I kind of miss them. I'm left with this wrecked pawn structure. But there is a move here to actually try and at least get the current resources that I have got, try and get them coordinated in this position. What do you reckon? Oh yeah, you're well done. 200 points to Travis Petit, Kurt, and Abstract. Yeah, Rook B4. It's actually mentioned by the engine. It's Rook B4. If there's 1 point here, it's this H file. That's a trump card. And coordinating the resources, you know, you've got to be a little bit optimistic, yeah. So yeah, it's the idea of Rook H4. Well done. You got to fight, and there's an expression regroup, right? Yeah, I think this is a kind of grouping of resources to try and target something. H7. So he's again taking pawns in slow motion though. Rook A F8 doesn't have to rush for anything. I take my queen away from D3 in this position. I think the idea, he's already threatening things like Rook F1. So I haven't really got time to do this, because I think Rook F1 would be unpleasant. Yeah. So I thought I should at least defend the F1. So he wins his first pawn, and he's about to win a second pawn. And I think again, why didn't I play like the London system or something, you know, solid, stable, you know, in balance? I seem to have lost before. I seem to have a sparkler type opening here, which went away. Anything it might have had which was exciting went away. Probably the bias of winning so many blitz games of it probably doesn't help advertise the opening in my mind. That's another thing. In blitz, you can get away with so much more. The sparkler attack systems are all you need, but in a longer game, they can defend accurately and just win pawn after pawn without any time pressure. You probably need more solid systems in general. But anyway, let's not get too depressed. So I double the rooks on h7 defense, and he can in slow motion win a second pawn win a second pawn in slow motion anyway. Or even okay, other stuff. I try and kick the queen away, and I'll try and at least shelter my king now with king c1, and he could really just take on g5 here. He plays actually rook e5. I'll try and avoid a rook exchange, and I'm thinking maybe even c4 could be to undouble the pawns. It would control a3 right from the check, and if I could undouble the pawns, he plays c6. I'm delighted to be able to play king b2 here. I'm actually kind of trying to reach a more stable position, basically, because if you can tuck your king away, that was kind of one goal of a stable opening, to put the king at least a bit safer. And he should really consider taking this pawn. There's no real penalty for taking the pawn, but he prefers to control the file and just take the pawn in his own time. So I go back for this rook here. And here again, taking the pawn would be the thing to do, right? The thing to do would be to take the pawn. This is just, there's hardly anything for white to do here. Everything's pretty well defended, yeah? Say I try and swing the queen into c8, say queen d7. So what? I'm 2 pawns down, right? This is just grim. More than grim. Very, very unpleasant. Okay, so but he played in this position. I don't want to hurt with a smile too much. Sorry, I'm still recovering from a wisdom tooth operation. He played rook e3. Funny enough, in this position, with great patience and confidence, you might be able to find something which exposes a downside of black's position. So if I say white play, what would you consider playing in this position? Which kind of changes the whole valuation of the position in one fell swoop. Into white's favour, miraculously, by through some miracle. Alright, it'll be 200,000 points if you can get in the next move. Not too many. Non-exchangeable for currency. I'm sorry, I did watch some of Ben Feingold's stuff and get some inspiration from his stuff. Only occasionally when I'm not doing videos. Okay, but anyway, he sometimes says they're non-exchangeable currency. Yeah, I'm always on the lookout for tips about this points business. Okay, so yeah, queen takes g6. Bang! And look, my king has been on b2, right? Away from any nasty checks. You see? I'm able to throw a punch, and it's with check anyway, but even if it wasn't with check, if there's no immediate check, that's a bonus. But now if black takes, then actually this pawn is part of a mating net after check. And you see this pawn is playing a heroic role to checkmate the black king here. So he can't actually play. I've got my pawn back. I've got one pawn back. I'm still a pawn down. I play rook g7. Sorry, he plays rook g7. Now white's play here. So this is getting, all of a sudden, I'm thinking, hold on, I'm not yet dead. White's play here. What would you play in this position? Okay, a few thousand points for this next move. Just to recap, so we were 2 pawns down. Current status, we've got damaged pawns still on the queen side, which aren't very funny to have. We've also got, apart from the double pawns here, and the isolated pawn here, the structure is really fantastic. Compare that to black's 1 pawn island over here, and okay, an isolated pawn over here. Pawn structure, yeah. What would you play in this position? I don't think I don't think rook takes h7 is working, guys. Just rook takes g6. There's no mate here. Not here, which is a mate, but actually black in this position would have king f7, and then the comeback has ended and white can resign now. After check, there's well, either king e6 or even better rook g7, and white is a queen down now for the rook, minus 21, etc. 22 and going upwards. No, there's a better move. Okay, so clue, there's a better move than rook takes h7 in this position. So minus 2,000 points for rook takes h7. But no, there's plus 2,000 points for what move instead of rook takes h7. So I've given you a bit of a clue here by elimination. The process of elimination. Isn't that wonderful? And you want to change your vote. I'm giving you a chance to change your vote now. To recap your points to 0 if you just blundered with rook takes h7. So what would you play in this position? Okay, I'll give you a few more seconds. So I'm going to sneak in pouring of the water. Pouring of the water. Pouring of the water. So water is fluid. Doesn't make assumptions about past moves you've played in the game and the reasons for it. Water is like chess engines. It's fluid, isn't it? Okay, so queen takes c6. Yeah, queen takes c6. Look at this. It's isolated a pawn. It's not just one pawn. It's isolated and fragmented this pawn chain over here. It's protecting c3. It's threatening. Queen takes d5 check. So my opponent tries to defend against that. But now I play another good move, which actually comes across as the top engine choice. Believe it or not, the fun's really kicked off in this game for me. Oh, my choice has gone down now. The engine's just delegated my downgraded my choice. I thought it was pretty cool. It's just downgraded my choice to 4th, but still with an advantage to white. Well, maybe it's changing its mind. No, 4th no. But anyway, it was fun to play. So white's plan have some fun here now. For 1,000 points. Oh, someone's mentioned g6. We got g6. We got queen a8, queen c8. One of those might be good. But let's examine g6. I'm not sure this is too good. Rook takes because it hits the queen. It's a bit not entirely convincing because here we got rook e8. Yeah, I don't think g6 is entirely convincing. Although it is actually technically promising an advantage, fair enough. With this continuation, check. Let's have a look. White still thinks this might be an advantage for white. Queen h3, queen d3, with the idea of rook f1. That gives this a slightly better for white. But I think my move is better. The engine thinks my move is better. What other mentions? Check. I'm not sure this does too much. No, black's equal apparently after rook e8 technically. And then say rook e3. Yeah, black's just equal with the check on a8. The check on c8 might be one of the stronger moves. There's a reason, a weird reason, which I would have never have thought of in a million years. Queen a6 is given, or queen, yeah, for some reason, queen a6. I'd rather go with queen h3, but it's mentioning queen a6. Maybe to go to d3. Maybe that's why. But no, I played the more spectacular move. Rook takes h7. Yeah. Because after takes, the idea is g6. So I want to win the queen or win material. His best move is to take here. And remember, it's not with check because I put myself beyond defeat before. The king's tucked away. Thankfully, this isn't with check, right? So I can do this tactic. Otherwise, this tactic would fall on its face. Yeah, if my king was in check. It's something to bear in mind all the time. So g6. Now, if he wants to like lose the rook instead, this is just the disaster area because of check. Well, it's just a total disaster area. This is not a territory to play. It's just losing outright. Everything going, the rook going. So he has to give up the queen, right? And yeah, the two rooks can of course fight against the queen. So we have a new thing, and I can pick up d5. But what I have got is this g pawn and the queen. Okay, I should be able to fight here a bit, right? So my aim is really to try and uncoordinate the rooks as far as possible, stretch the rooks out. I kick off with g4. Apparently, okay, that might be better, but g4, rook g1. I'll play a4 here, so he can't take this yet because queen f5 check wins the rook. So a4, we have king e7. We have now check here, king d7, check here, king c6. Now g5. And I don't mind him nearly mating me as long as the rooks can end up in a uncoordinated state at some point during the near mating attack. So yeah, this looks bad, this with the double pawns and the rooks being doubled, as though something really horrible is going to happen. But as I say, the one thing I have got, the mindset I have got right fundamentally, I think, for this game is a little bit more patience than earlier over the board games in the season. And through patience, I believe there's actually a very good move I played at move 39 here to further tilt the game in my favour, and try and avoid getting mated in this position, because the king is also taking away that c5 square, right? So you can imagine if the rooks come, they could mate, because my king's never going to have c5 or b5. Well, the king's ready as part of a sort of mating there. But there's a move here which keeps white with good prospects. So white play for like, you know, 1,000 points here. What would you, and it's actually, I'm saying that this competition is now because looking at the engine here, this is actually apparently, well, who am I kidding? There's no point taking moves with what the engine says. You know why? Because you don't know the reason actually why the engine thinks a move is strong. So sometimes you might as well pick your own moves if you know the actual reasons they're strong, because it's you that has to actually do the follow-up. Yeah, so who cares actually what the engine thinks? But there is a move I kind of vaguely have an idea. It creates more safety possibilities for my king. It just so happens coincidentally it might be technically strong for whatever millions of variations have been calculated, but there's a move intuitively here which might improve king safety here. So there's actually, okay, so there's two goals. Try and make sure the rooks are as uncoordinated as possible. Try and use this trump card, dare I say trump card, and also try and not be mated. Okay, there's 3 goals in the position to be aware of. So this move here, what do you reckon about this position? So white to play in this position. By the way, because there's so many of you watching, thank you very much. Please do try and like the video while I'm being a whore for likes. Yeah, can you like the video? Well, okay, I'm not going to carry on that every move. Just I thought I'd mention it here. Okay. So okay, c4. Yeah, because I thought, you know, it not only gives c3 for the king, but also this diagonal could be nifty, you know. This is helping the queen help the king. That was my reasons. As I say, actually, who cares what engine thinks? You need to have your reasons, because it's up to you to follow up from your chosen move. Yeah, it doesn't matter what Einstein thinks is the best move, right? Because you can't follow up the reasoning, yeah. But here, okay, there's an intuitive idea that this could be handy, yeah? So, check. And in fact, because of this opened up queen, there's a remarkable move here available now, which doesn't actually get mated by force, yeah? White to play here, sorry, I'm testing on every move. White to play here and not get mated by force. It's actually, again, I've managed to find by accident one of the strongest moves available in the position, because this is not by any stretch a winning position yet, a clearly winning position, by the way. This is a major fight here, but white has a move in this position, and I think this is why I shouldn't be totally humiliated by just because the game started so badly. I actually played some good moves later, I believe, which this is helping to confirm. Apparently I played some good moves later. Okay, so king a2, the queen holds a1, right? So if he does play for this check here, I think I can just snap that off and the end game will be winning, right? Because if this king goes over there, I think we just get a load of time with our king to go and munch the pawns. I think anything would win here, because we get time to munch first. The king will be 6 million miles away and not helping. So it's clear that rook a1 transposes into a completely lost king and pawn ending. So he plays rook bc1. Now I just want to show the point actually that why accuracy was needed as well while we're here, for the record. On this check, if king c3, check here is harassing and probably close to drawing, you know, because the rooks can jumble on g5, and this is going to be, this is like less than half a pawn advantage. Yeah, this position. Technically, the pawns are all pretty bad, diced. So they're not. It's not like having 2 extra pawns. It's like having more of a perpetual check scenario than anything else. Okay, so that's unpleasant. So really, king a2 is a way of trying to keep any winning chances alive that level of accuracy is needed. So Rook BC1 was played. The other one, by the way, on King A3, again, Rook G3 is a pain. This would be going into potential repetition, yeah. So, okay, sorry, okay. Side notes over. Rook BC1. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Seriously, I have not seen these evaluations before. I don't believe this. There's a good move here now, which helps white significantly, which I actually played. So white's play here, believe it or not, an accurate move. You need accurate move after accurate move needed sometimes. No, this is a fairly accurate move. It's up there. I'll give you points for some other moves. So 1,000 points for the next move. Technically, the checks are good here, but I like this move. So, you know, this is technically very good. But I play Queen B2, yeah? Because actually the rooks can't do a thing here. Protecting the pawn, that would lose that rook. The rooks can't take anything. Okay. And here I think he hastens to the end now with King C5. And yes, I play a very, very strong move. This pushes it over +5 now, technically, after this mistake. So white's play here. So the uncoordinating the rooks has really been working very well, and this really is starting to put pressure on rook coordination now significantly. This next move. It's by far the strongest move in the position. It's the clear winner move. Yeah, G6. Give yourself thousands of points for G6. Because I'm threatening now, like G7. And that gets very dangerous to that pawn, yeah? On check, by the way, this isn't so good, but apparently it can lead to an advantage, but it isn't so clear. Because the king could come out like this, and then you've got to play apparently tricky move. The engine thinks move like this, and this is weird stuff. No, this is keeping it simple and clean, and just G6, because, you know, pass pawns have a lust to expand, as Fisher says, when there's loads of pass pawn quotations. So yeah, it's a pass pawn. G6, only 2 steps away from queening. It's actually a totally winning position now. He plays Rook CE1, and guess what? Guess what about this position? Again, I hit the most critical move. White's play. Again, can you imagine a shocking move to play in this position? Did Nimzovich say about the lust to expand? Yeah, you're probably right, yeah. Maybe it wasn't Fisher. Fisher had some pass pawn quotations. So white to play here. Yeah? Oh, okay, I'll sip some water, getting the votes in now. Oh. Just G7, yeah. This is really stretching the rooks. Rook g3 is played, with the idea of doubling to eliminate that pawn, but it's too late. It's too late. Oh, it's so late now. Alas, if it was black's move, he could double and eliminate the pawn, but it's white's move. Well, there's two ways of doing it here. At least two ways. Two main ways. Okay, you can either play the check, it's the same thing, or g8. Because it leaves a loose rook on g8. This is a loose rook liability position. Now, when you're solving like chess puzzles, I think part of it is not just to improve looking at very forcing if-then moves, but also that intuition to be able to develop and enhance to the maximum the intuition that if there's red flags in the position, like loose pieces, there should be a way to exploit them, right? So here there is. I'm sure you can work it out, but I'm going to show you. Check and check. Yeah, the loose piece drops off. That could have also worked, and he resigned there. That could have also worked with Queen b5 check, because we get the check. It's simple. Actually, we can just do it like this as well. So I was a lucky bunny there in this game. I didn't deserve to win that, but I had the right mindset fundamentally of patience, but I just put myself well into defeat before starting to play the game, which I suppose makes the game more interesting. To sort of give yourself a massive handicap out of the opening. If you're into like giving yourself a hard time, that's a great way of doing it. Play in a long game, a blitz opening. It's a fantastic way of giving yourself a handicap to try and play the rest of the game and be as resourceful as possible. It's a thrill challenge, but maybe some of you might not want that thrill, because you know it's quite a long time to spend in an evening. An hour and 15 minutes each plus 15 minutes each is quite a few hours to spend trying to sort of rescue losing positions. Yeah, you could have played like 20 blitz games in that time, but you're just playing the one game. So if you're just playing the one game for several hours, this idea of having more stable, solid openings is a little bit more attractive. If not just to have that horrible embarrassed feeling with teammates around, that why are you in such a lost position for like the last few hours, that sort of feeling. So, but no, I was lucky to get back into this game with the blunder. I was hoping actually for that trap. No, I was actually hoping for that trap that if he played rook e3 for some weird reason, he might miss queen g6. So sometimes, yeah, you've got to hang in there. This was my swindle game over the board of the year, I think. But I did start playing the London system quite a bit, or relatives of the London system, just from the perspective actually that out of the opening, why give yourself so many downsides? Yeah, but the thing is, sometimes if you don't get any upsides at all. You know, this idea, if you go towards solidity, also less aggressive, but there's a balance between being slightly solid and aggressive, like Aronian, I think it's talked about that quite a bit. Solid, but kind of keeping an element of dynamic aggression out of the opening. That's kind of ideal. So you're not completely lost, but you're not completely going to just draw the game. So you don't want a completely lost position out of the opening, but you want some sort of imbalances that might give you some dynamic potential. Yeah. But it's also relative to the opponent's understanding of an opening. So, yeah, but the Vienna game is something I really need to put on the scrap heap and just consider playing other move alternatives. That's why I was mentioning other move alternatives, which are more actually popularly played. So I was really lucky in this game, but it did influence even my Blitz chess later to try and play a bit more solidly for a while. London systems. Okay, so it was a bit of I I was happy to get back here in this game. So I hope you got something from that, and yeah, have a good week. Try and not get lost positions at the opening, and but even if you do, try and have the patience to work out still any downsides of the opponent's position, because that's why you're given time, you know, trying to avoid this pressure. But there's also this idea in this game, if you look, any engine analysis is very unegocentric. The engines will completely evaluate and not put intention behind previous moves. So you saw that h4 could have actually been done with casting. That's outrageous to a human, but apparently, you know, we saw the other opportunities that could emerge. So that's interesting as well. So anyway, okay, I'll see you next week. Okay, comments, questions, likes, appreciate it on YouTube, etc. Thanks very much. Cheers then.